Welcome all, I'm Steve McKinney, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk About, a production of BIS Broadcasting. Tonight on our show, we are going to be talking with the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, the Honorable Charles Maynard, because we want to bring focus tonight on the new stadium that you see coming up out of the ground and has everybody feeling so proud and so good, because the enthusiasm is now beginning to build as Bahamians anticipate a world-class national stadium and a wonderful surrounding area that's going to take place and take shape over the next few months. Of course, right now the National Stadium is almost 1 year into the building process, and while there's been a lot of talk about all the pros and cons of it, the most part of it is going to be very, very positive, because it's going to bring a lot of wonderful dividends to the Bahamas. The socio-economic growth we're going to see great expansion, I'm told, that's going to happen to the entire area of that western portion of New Providence. Minister, I'm impressed when I looked at the signs and I looked at the display and I looked at all the possible projections on this national stadium. I say, well, this is one great feather and in the hat of the present administration. Not only that, but overall for the Bahamian people, this seems to be a project worthwhile talking about, worthwhile doing, because the Bahamas stands poised to benefit in a great way. What's your overall view? Why this national stadium? We know it's a gift. How is the Bahamas government caretaking this gift and making this really wonderful for the Bahamas? I should say wonderful. That's my enthusiasm. But how is this going to be profitable in the long run for the entire country, the Bahamas?
When we came to office, we met the gift on the table. Mm-hmm. The project had not started in earnest yet, but there were certain requirements as per the agreement with the Chinese government. And one requirement was that we were responsible for what they call the green zone, and they was responsible for what is called the red zone. The red zone is the footprint of the stadium itself, the stadium and anything inside of it. The green zone is everything around it. And to put it in perspective, it's a 15,000 seat stadium as it's being built, with the capacity to add seats temporarily when you need it. And so it could be up to a 30,000 seat stadium if the need arises for that size event. Yeah. And when you consider that, you have to consider what's the parking, what kind of roadways need to be adjusted to ensure that people can get in and out of an event in a timely fashion. Very true. What kind of utility requirements are there for the stadium to be able to be functional? And so we decided that we wanted to take a holistic look at the whole entire sports center area. Okay. In fact, over the years, the sports center has been developed in a very ad hoc way. Federations would come and say, we want to build, and a piece of land would be designated to them, and they would build. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to say, okay, with the remaining land left at the sports center, what do we want to do with it? And how are we going to arrange it so that the stadium could be properly utilized? And so we were able to contract a young Bahamian engineering firm, and I want to emphasize young because the average age of the principals is 40 years old. Okay. And so you could imagine 2 years ago when we would have contracted them, that they would just be in their late 30s and given this tremendous opportunity to really design a centerpiece for Bahamian sports and recreation. And within a year's time, they were able to present us with a master plan that incorporated all of the needs for the stadium and the future development of all sports.
And this is by young Bahamians.
Young Bahamians, all young Bahamians. And they have done a fantastic job in terms of the original design and then, of course, now the execution of this project.
Now, of course, we're going to talk tonight about the possibilities of so many young Bahamians being involved and Bahamians from all walks of life being involved in the development and the progress of this particular stadium and the surrounding areas. But before we get to that and talk about all the wonderful job opportunities that will come along with a part of this package, I want you to outline for us, Minister, basically the stadium. I know is the main component. You started to touch bases on it. There are going to be other areas of development in this whole sports center redevelopment project. Give us a bird's eye view on how that's going to take shape.
You see, once again, once we realized that the stadium is going to be a reality, and I guess we had to look now also at the rest of the center to make sure that we can accommodate what is needed for the stadium. But the stadium is definitely the driving force behind this project. And one of the things that complicated everything is that there was, of course, a time period by which the stadium should be finished, and therefore certain works required in the green zone, which is our responsibility, has to also be finished in that time period. And so we will fast track everything that we were doing. Okay. In the words of the engineers, they said that this is never how it's done. It's usually done the other way, where you give them a blank slate and allow them to design basically whatever components you want in the best way they can. But in this case, they were stuck with where the stadium was. They were stuck with where existing Thomas A. Robinson track and field stadium is. They were stuck with where the pool is. They were stuck with where the Kendall Isaacs gym is. And everything else was kind of flexible. Right. But those components were things that they had to design around, and so it made the whole task a little bit more complicated. As for the stadium itself, we needed is massive utility requirements, to be more specific, massive. Of course, when you're talking about 15,000 to 30,000 people, you may not be able to have parking for every single attendant at the game, but you have to have reasonable parking areas. And to put it in perspective, let's look at the biggest event that's usually held in that general area any given year. The carnival. Well, as much as we may believe 100,000 people attend the carnival on a Christmas night or one of the busy nights, the reality is that historically, not more than 7,000 people would pass through the gates during that whole entire day. But yet, cars would be parked all along Thompson Boulevard and all the way to Government High and so on. And so that shows you that if you don't try to account for proper parking areas and so on, that we're going to be in trouble when we talk about using the stadium in a real substantial way. And to go a little further, we want to attract international events. We want to attract regional events. And we have to make sure that all the amenities suit those type of events.
Now, Minister, I hear you saying a whole lot of things in your presentation just now. I hear you saying a whole lot of things. One of the things that sticks in my mind is that obviously you're going to need to have all hands on deck. And when I said I'm talking about, you're going to have all Bahamians sharing in not only this enthusiasm, but participating in making sure that this venture is most successful. Having said that, you're looking at perhaps the involvement of the wider Bahamian public, but in particular, the people who are affected most in that area surrounding the stadium, because you're talking about a progressive bit of things that are going to be happening at that stadium. You're looking at roadworks and major utilities are going to be put inside there. So obviously some things are going to happen in that area for reconfiguration, basically, of the vicinity. So I want to find out from you how and what is it that you're looking for from the Bahamian public in this regard, as far as their cooperation, understanding, and enthusiasm for this particular project?
Well, Bahamians should be very excited about it. And in particular, let's start off just with the people who live in the surrounding areas. As you know, there are major neighborhoods in that surrounding area. And just instantly overnight, they're going to find that their property values are going to go up.
No question about
as a result of this new economic engine that's placed in the middle of where they live. Let me say, first of all, that in the master plan, there are commercial zones that have also been included, because in the end analysis, we have to be able to pay for what is spent and pay for the maintenance of such a massive undertaking. And so the fact that we have new economic activity in that area raises the property value. But also, you look at stadiums around the world. Those areas surrounding the stadiums, it's like almost an urban renewal. That's right. By the virtue of building a stadium.
A lot of businesses popping up.
Absolutely. Businesses popping up.
Because it's a hub.
It is a hub. It is a hub. And so those are the type of things that the people in the general area could expect. The wider Bahamian community, like I said, could participate. Entrepreneurs, there are going to be any number of opportunities for entrepreneurs to be able to set up business and to make money as a result of these activities. And then to speak about all of the spin-offs from, again, all of this international attractions that we want to bring to this area. We want to be in a situation where not only international competitions, but international training. We can have world-class facilities, and so we want to be able to attract world-class athletes from around the world to come and train and to use the facilities and to make it viable as an economic.
Yeah. You know, Minister, that's why I'm enthusiastic about it as an old former sportscaster and one who's been in journalism for many, many years. I could remember all kinds of events that happened in the Bahamas because we had basically the facilities, and now our climate, our proximity to the United States made things very, very good for the Bahamas from a touristic, viable economic point of view, bringing in teams for spring training, bringing in people to do their training in boxing, those big international sports that make a lot of money and bring a lot of focus to the Bahamas. So this stadium that you're talking about has that magnitude, you're saying, because of it being a world-class facility, and where we are in the Bahamas, we can perhaps possibly now attract again the big boys of spring training for baseball and off-season basketball training and football and rugby and the rest of it. Are you saying that is where we're looking at, in addition to world-class events that can happen at this stadium?
Let me give you some more details. We had an opportunity to meet with every single federation that exists in the Bahamas and speak to them about this redevelopment and the master plan. And every single one got excited about the prospects of what they can do with their international bodies in terms of bringing tournaments here. Their colleagues in different countries who would want to come and train here. Tourism is one of our major partners in this whole process, and their sports tourism unit has advised us that we have everything that we need. We have the airlift into the country, we have the room nights, and we have the climate. Those are the three major things that attract these kind of groups to train. Could you imagine a team someplace in the northern United States during November to maybe March? They don't have a field to practice on because it's frozen or it's cold. Wouldn't they love to be able to come to the Bahamas and train in the climates what we may consider cold at 70 degrees or 60 some degrees, but to them it's wonderful weather for them to train and so on. And so all we needed was the facilities. And then one of the most exciting aspects as well is the fact that the College of the Bahamas, as they move towards the university status, one of the things that a university requires is an active sports program. And so they have been negotiating with various international and most particularly North American university conferences. The NCAA requires that they have their own facilities as a part of the thing. But the ACCU doesn't require that. They require that they be in proximity to
the kind of facilities,
that is needed. And so right away, in terms of what we could do in terms of developing all of these various aspects of the whole redeveloped sports center, means that it qualifies COB in terms of being a member of that particular conference. And that will mean that our teams locally from COB will be able to play in those conferences, and so home games will be held in the Bahamas. So we'll be in a situation where once or twice a month we'll have some sort of college game hosted here in the general facility. And so again, it's going to be a whole new dimension for sports in the Bahamas.
And that's key, because over the many years the Bahamas has missed out on many things, and I can talk from my days of sports and being a part of the journalistic corps. We have missed out on many things in sports and culture because of lack of the facilities, the world-class facilities. And right in the Caribbean, you had Cuba and them hosting all kinds of things, from CAC at the high level, Pan-American Games at the high level, because of their proximity, their climate, and the fact that they had the facilities, as they really believe that they are sports power, Cuba that is. Now the Bahamas, who's been touting this thing that we are sports power, and as you mentioned, Minister, very, very true, that we do have the athleticism, we do have the